Dave, we had you on last year during the conference realignment madness. What do you think? Where's the river flowing, in your opinion, when all the dust settles?
Oh, this has been a long time coming. I find it interesting that everybody's hair is on fire when basically nothing has changed. Fundamentally, what has changed in the last month in college football? Two things. Fox told the Big Ten to pick up USC and UCLA. USC and UCLA are going to get paid. That's it. The revenue gap between the Big 12 and everybody else, still the same. Pac-12, Pac-10 and everybody else, still the same. Nothing you're going to do is going to change that either. The Big Ten is, like some of the people in the Big Ten, you say, oh, Rutgers sucks in Indiana. Look, sometimes you just get born into rich, right? You get born into wealth. And the Big Ten has always had these advantages. They have history, and they have the alumni base in the Big Ten is incredible, right? And the Big 12, the Pac-12, the ACC combined can't match these alumni bases, right? And then they're all crazy about football. And so the Big Ten has alumni and wealth advantages that nobody will ever catch. And the SEC has a fan base and a spending problem advantage nobody will ever catch. They're crazy about it. And they have a population base that is crazy about it. So there's no, people are like, well, what about merging these conferences? You can't do that, because if you merge them, then you're taking away votes for playoff control. And guess who that gives power to? Big Ten, SEC. So you can't merge them. I think they got to be proactive. I don't know where this is all heading. Ultimately, the question is, what is the new playoff going to look like for everybody? Because if you're out, then it just crushes everything. There's no, like you talked about in the intro, there's no hope. You have to have hope, no matter where you recruit at, no matter what conference you're in. You have to have hope September 1 that you have a shot. Mm-hmm. If you have no shot, you lose hope, and then people stop spending, and they lose interest. So does the SEC Big Ten, worst case scenario, they go totally nuclear and crazy. They go completely greedy, money happy, and they pull in Notre Dame, they pull in Oregon, they pull in Washington, they pull in Stanford. And the SEC goes, oh, we can do that too. And they pull in Florida State, Miami, and Clemson and North Carolina. Now, all top 25 recruiters are in two conferences. That sucks, right? That sucks. As fans, what have we been asking for the last, 2 decades? Could somebody please give us a good September? Yeah. So what do? They put all the teams in two conferences so we can never have good Septembers. Thank you, you moron, right? There goes the non-conference game. So it is, and I probably sound a little bit like old man yelling at clouds. I get it, okay? I am old, and I am yelling at clouds because nothing's going to change. But how does the playoff structure look like, and what are some of these other because if the SEC and the Big Ten want to go crazy, you get rid of the NCAA. Then when the NCAA is gone, they just basically form their own union, and they get rid of scholarship limits. What happens if they go, we're not listening to that anymore? That would really suck too. So there's a lot worse things that can happen. If I'm the Pac-12, the ACC, and the Big 12, I stop messing around with crappy Septembers and maybe listen to the fans. If you want to get eyeballs and you want to get money, start scheduling each other. Drop all your non-conference games, your crappy ones, and start scheduling each other. Come up with unique ways to play each other. Championship week, instead of playing 1 versus 2, it's ACC 1 versus Big 12 1. It's ACC 2 versus, because if 2 teams can play an extra week, why can't everybody else? Make it interesting. Pull eyeballs with what you have. I think you've got to be creative to make something good happen if you're looking for more revenue.
Dave, you're up there in the Northwest, and I believe, if I remember correctly, you're a big Oregon guy, but you've seen all the talk about Oregon and Washington over the last few days, ever since the LA schools made their announcement. And look, there's the talk about an alliance, right, with the ACC. There's the talk about them waiting on Notre Dame. There's the talk about, going to the Big Ten. There's all this talk, all these rumors. It's realignment season. But what are your thoughts, having some knowledge there of kind of that landscape up there and the schools with Oregon and Washington?
Well, just as a whole, look, I'm a Duck alum. So, I was a season ticket holder for 17 years. So, but it's not like I have my pulse finger on the pulse of what's going on. Do any of us? Right? Everything that happens is did anybody know UCLA, USC was coming? No. Wasn't a word. Texas, Oklahoma, If Ross Bjork doesn't open his mouth, not only does the SEC have Texas and Oklahoma, they probably have a 12-game playoff as they bullied the G5s into giving them a 12-game playoff. They got 6 teams in the playoff every year. But Ross had to open his big damn mouth because he was pissed at Texas. Good job, Ross. Way to kill everybody. Well, it's actually good for us as fans because, well, it didn't create an massive SEC playoff dominance. But where it's all going to go, isn't it really? Haven't we realized now where it's going to go is going to be up to Fox and ESPN?
Right, yeah.
Right? Because does Iowa care if Oregon comes in? Hell no. It ain't going to make them more money. Right? They don't need Oregon and Washington to make more money. Neither does Wisconsin, nor does Michigan. The only people that care about adding USC and UCLA was Fox and people making money at the Big Ten. Right? Same thing with Oklahoma, Texas. Mississippi State, Ole Miss, did that really, really matter to them? No. It didn't increase what they make. They still make the same amount of money. But, so I don't know where it ultimately is going to go. I'm pretty sure, though, when it happens, it won't be what anybody's thinking, and it'll be a complete surprise.
Yeah, everyone will start making more money in the Big Ten, who's already making a lot of money, and of course is it dangerous, Dave, that the networks have this type of handle and control?
It's just a consolidation of power. I don't know if it's dangerous, but as a fan, it just sucks.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. I mean, as a
That's
fan,
the basic thing, yeah.
This sucks. Yeah. Right? Because it's just capitalism. Right? Products are built, products consolidate. Yeah. And when you have a monopoly, this is why we don't want monopolies in a capitalistic society, right? Because monopolies, who gets screwed? The consumers, the fans. We're getting screwed by this over monopolistic practices. They have 19 of the top 25 recruiters right now between 2 conferences. Tell me that is not a monopolization of power. It sucks, but we got to deal with it because that's the way it is. But if it keeps going, no, I don't like that. I think it hurts what we get to root for. I think it hurts the uniqueness of college football. It becomes more homogenous like the NFL, which, some of the NFL is fine, but I don't want college football to be the NFL model. But Fox and ESPN make a ton of money off the NFL model, so why not force everybody else to do it by offering them money? And they just keep taking the money. So I don't like the consolidation of power. And a lot of people, the one thing I think that the ACC, Big 12, and Pac-10 could do proactively to try to be tough, right, and not be pushed around is never play those guys again.
Oh,
and I know that sounds crazy, but the SEC has made an absolute fortune off of a zillion top 25 teams. Why? Because they have a lot of teams and they play 4 non-conference games. Okay, now that conference is the most injured per snap with just 8 conference games. What happens if they play 10, 11, or 12 conference games? How many top 25? How many 11-1 teams? There ain't going to be any. Right? They're going to beat the crap out of each other. And in an ecosystem, predators got to eat. If you make an ecosystem with nothing but predators, they consume each other.
That actually sounds like an alliance that could work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're going to play hardball with these guys and try to be proactive, if they're going to be, don't hit the drop button. If they're going to be like that, right, then don't give them what they need. They need wins. See, this is in October and November. This is what makes the Big Ten and the SEC cool, is because they get 3 or 4 non-conference games. Everybody's 4-0. You got a lot of top 25 teams. But if they're beating the crap out of each other, all of a sudden, 6-6 Michigan, 6-5 Michigan at 9-3 Ohio State, that kind of sucks, right? You got less top 25 teams, and I know they all have big brands, and I wouldn't like to see it go that way. But that's what it feels like to me, is there can't be a loose alliance. They literally, ACC, Big 12, Pac-12, needs to go, let's just start scheduling each other. We'll literally make our own 45-team conference that is cool and fun to watch because we have numbers. I think that might be a way to go. I know I'm throwing stuff on the wall, but, something, who knows what's going to happen.
Well, look, Dave, it's the only way to, fight a trust is to bust the trust, right? So, in the turn of the 20th century, they had Teddy Roosevelt who busted the trust, and nobody really has done it since then, for the government or for anything. So that's the only way to go, right, is to find some way to break it up.
That may be the way it goes because, look, the ACC, Pac-10, Big 12, they're all about, on average, spitball, right, $30 to $40 million a year programming, right? You put them all together, it's all worth $35 million a year, right? You separate them all apart, it's still all worth $35 million a year. There's no combination that brings it up to 90 to 100 million like the other two conferences. But individually, they can still make their money and still put out a really good product. But they have to work together to do it and force Big Ten, SEC possibly to just play each other. And at that point, we may be going to that anyway, so why not get ahead of it? Again, are you going to be proactive or are you going to be reactive? Being reactive right now sucks. You in the Big 12 know it. Me in the Pac-10 knows it. It sucks being reactive. What can we do to be proactive while at the same time trying to create a better schedule to get more eyeballs, which is more money, on our product?
Dave, you mentioned you're an Oregon grad, right?
Yes.
What are your thoughts? And, you kind of get this impression Big 12 right now appears as if they're in a hunting mode rather than being hunted. But there is at times this feeling when we hear from Pac-12 fan bases or even those who cover that, like, the Big 12, there's been that. A year ago, we saw quite a bit of that. We don't want them coming here when the Big 12 was being torn apart or appeared to be. What do you think? What is your thought as an Oregon fan of the Big 12?
Two things. Number one, I didn't say I was still an Oregon fan. When you work for different companies, sometimes alliances change, especially if your alumni tells you we don't want anything to do with you. But that is another soapbox rant for a different day.
Ouch.
So that being said, okay, is with the Big 12, I can see where some fans would like to say, okay, that's a lesser brand. But usually what they're doing is they're only looking at the top brands. When you look at the Big 12, it was, Oklahoma State, Baylor, Oklahoma, Texas, right? I mean, that was really it. And then everything after that. And then you compare that to, Oregon, USC, UCLA, Washington. Is there really that much difference? Outside of Oregon, all of those teams, everybody you have right now, everybody you're bringing in, outside of Oregon, everybody is a top 20. Nobody's a top 25 recruiter. Everybody's less than that. So to me, from a talent standpoint, there's almost no differentiation. Okay, if they played each other talent for talent, I would call it even. Now the coaching profile in the Big 12 is significantly superior to the Pac-10. Okay. So when you're looking at the talent, I don't think there's much difference. When you're looking at the coaching, it's strongly in favor of the Big 12, but that can change over time. But to me, they're really the same conference. There's nothing great about any of them. Nothing against your teams or anybody else's. There's nothing great about the Pac-10. There's no superior long-term brand. Oregon is a great national brand, but that's only been in the last 20 years. Kids love them, right? Under 30 loves them. Guys my age, across the country, no. It doesn't ring a bell for them. So, I mean, if putting the Pac-12 and the Big 12 together, I think is a bad idea. Again, like I said, it takes away voting power. If you were to try to do something that made more money, then, get rid of the smaller brands, right? I mean, you don't, Big 12, you don't bring in Arizona State. They don't do anything good. What is that going to do for you? Zero. Colorado, same thing. They don't do anything good. Then it's not increasing your revenue. Now if you wanted to be devious, then you get Oregon and Washington and Stanford and Utah and BYU and Baylor and Oklahoma State and TCU. You get all the good ones together and just make one good second-tier conference. But it doesn't matter what you do. It's still going to pale in comparison to the big ones, right?
Yeah, no question. You can follow Dave Bartoo, CFB Matrix, on Twitter. And, again, Matrix Analytical is the business as well.
Dave, do I need to sign up for a service